Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Jensen. We're here to break down Stardust the Super Wizard hardcover anthology, currently live on Zoop, 140 plus pages, bringing back a superhero from the late 1930s. This is awesome. I love it. Van, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I always like to start, you are a man of many titles and credits. I feel like I could spend just a few moments trying to list them off, but before we dive into your works, let's dive into you. How did you get into creating comics?
Yeah, it was not a straight and narrow path. I grew up in this really small town in Nebraska, and so I barely had access to comics at all, but I love to draw. I love to tell stories. I'm from a very creative family. Like, everyone's like artists and musicians. My mom's a painter. Like, my grandmothers were writers. And so I was, from like age 4, I was making my own comics. But I mean, I didn't know that it was like real people that made the comic books I was reading. I had no access to any of that. So I did something completely different. I was in journalism, and just at this newspaper, I had a buddy who was an artist. It was my first gig out of school, and he was like, "Oh, you're into comics. I'm into comics. Let's make a book together." And that became Pinocchio Vampire Slayer, which came out in
so cool.
2009, I guess, was the first book. And we didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know what a comic book script looked like. I was just like, maybe this is it. And then those books did pretty well, and that got me hired at DC Comics on Green Lantern Corps, and then The Flash.
Wow.
And just kind of off from there. But I mean, it's like, if you had asked me when I was like 6 or 7 years old, like, what is the absolute coolest thing you could do with your life, it would be create comic books. So it's pretty awesome to get to do it.
Yeah, you're doing it. And I think it's so cool that the first title that you worked on, you were like really unsure if this is how you even do it, and that's what landed you, your gig at DC. It's so cool to hear those stories, and just like how unsure that person was at that time, but the fact that they stuck through and stuck with it landed them to bigger books. Like, that's awesome. What was the first book about, your Pinocchio versus vampires? That sounds like such an awesome concept.
Yeah, it's admittedly like super silly, right? Pinocchio lies, his nose grows out, he breaks it off, it's a wooden stake, right?
I love it. I was hoping it.
Yeah. So and there's it's got a very like humor action vibe where he'll be surrounded by vampires and he's just like telling lies and like snapping off noses and shanking vampires. And there's like one bit where he looks at a vampire, he's like, "Your mother has a mustache," and then his nose doesn't grow, and the vampire's just like, "Aw." So just like it was a kid's book, like real silly. But then we based it all on the original Carlo Collodi Pinocchio fairy tale, which is just it's a bit darker than the Disney version, but it's also a bit weirder, and a good bit weirder, and it's also super funny. So we just really wanted to kind of play true to that, and so I think it's got a lot more heart maybe than people expect. Like, I get a lot of feedback from people. It's like, whoa, like that book made me actually like feel something, which I love hearing, because to me it's like, comics should be fun, they should be engaging, but I also want to connect emotionally with people.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, you were a crime reporter. How did it feel to get to work on The Flash? Like, after being a crime reporter, that had to have been an awesome like full circle for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was my first gig out of college, and it's like at the newspaper, and this was Little Rock, Arkansas, which is a shockingly violent city. And so I'm like listening to police scanner, like, you hear something happens, you race to the scene, all of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, there was a point where I realized writing The Flash that I saw some terrible stuff, that's kind of the only way to put it. And I had really I think emotionally kind of walled that stuff off. But then writing Iris West, I was like, I don't think that anyone who's written Iris West really knows what it's like to have been a crime reporter, and that's her job in the comic, obviously. And so we did some stuff with her where it's like, really talking about kind of the toll, like the personal toll that it takes, where you're always dealing with like the most horrible thing that's happened to anyone, and also just getting into like, some more realistic bits of like how does investigative journalism work? What does that look like, and how can that be folded into superhero comics?
That's so cool that you were, I mean, the experience is unfortunate, but it's cool that you were able to take that and put like some realness into the comic that wasn't there before. I'm sure that had to have been like an awesome, like little notch on the belt for you, like to be able to have been like, hey, I was able to add some realness to a Flash comic, That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also like, I've only done a couple of Superman comics, but with both of the ones I did, like the editor asked me if I wanted to do some, and I was like, can I do some stuff about journalism? Because it's the same thing. I was like, I've worked at a newspaper. I know what that looks like. I don't know if anyone who's ever written Superman before. I mean, not to dog on people, but it's just like, it's not that it's bad, but I think there's an extra layer of knowledge if you've really done it before. And so, yeah, like the Superman stories I did were really all about journalism. So I love getting to do that.
Were you expecting Superman, or were you just like anything with journalism? They're like, well, let's give you one of our biggest characters.
Yeah, the way it worked out, it was some of the shorter stories that they did as part of the giant issues that they did for Walmart. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think. I did some Flash, I did some Wonder Woman. And then they asked me about Superman, and it was like, when they asked me, I was like, well, here are the story ideas that I have, and they were all about journalism. And I really appreciate the editor. He's like, yeah, awesome, go for it.
I love too that you didn't try to do anything super bombastic. I'm sure the regular average person, if they get a chance to write a Superman story, they're gonna be like, let's do something crazy. And I love how you're like, right. I want to still do journalism. Like, that is so awesome that you were sticking true to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just always look like it's, with superheroes, it's always like the whole universe is in peril.
Yeah.
Like the stakes are always sky high. And so to me, it's like, what are the personal stakes? Like, even in a story that's big, like, why does this matter on a personal, emotional level?
That is so cool. And then you've also worked on James Bond too. I mean, you are knocking out like every teenager's dream at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that like I went through that period. Like, me and my cousin Alex, like in our small town, like we would watch. I think we went through one year where like we're watching every James Bond movie. I had read some of the novels, so yeah, I was working with Ian Fleming's family, which is very surreal.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
How was did that feel like, was the pressure ever too much for you at any point? I mean, you've knocked out some awesome, remarkable titles. It just seems like the weight of the world would be on your shoulders at some point.
Yeah, maybe there's something weird in the way that I'm wired, but I don't know. I just I don't get too concerned about it. It's really just like, have as much fun as possible. I try to actually really pay attention to what fan bases are saying about characters, like listening to what they're feeling, and not to say that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go and do exactly what they're calling for, but to get a sense of why people really love and resonate with these characters. And yeah, I mean, I think I always put a lot of pressure on myself to do a good job, I guess I would say. So, I'm more internally focused, like how in each project, like how am I doing something that I've never done before? How am I stretching myself as a writer? Am I still learning? Am I still growing? Am I making it as good as it can possibly be? And then on the backside, you just kind of hope that people connect with it.
Oh, absolutely. So speaking of weird, we're here to talk about Stardust the Super Wizard, one of the weirdest superheroes of the Golden Age. I loved how the creation of this campaign, that we're here to talk about, started all with a tweet that happened last year. I mean, Did you expect to see that tweet take off the way it did?
No. And yeah, so just for context, like people that don't know, so Stardust is this superhero that was created right at the dawn of superheroes, 1939. And it was this guy, Fletcher Hanks, and he's just like if you took one of the outsider artists of the 1970s, super underground artists, and had them do, weirdo sci-fi Silver Age comics, that would be what this would look like. But it was all done before any of that stuff existed, and he was just this like mad genius. And so I have been fascinated with it forever. And kind of what got it going. So my collaborator on Arca, which is my IDW graphic novel coming out in July, Jesse Lonergan, he did like a t-shirt with a version of Stardust on it. And so we were talking about Stardust, and we were like, man, like it'd be so cool to do something with that. And just on a whim, I posted something on Twitter that's like, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool to do a Stardust anthology? Like, you know, would anybody, or who would be into that sort of thing? And it was like hundreds of people responded. And you know, not just hundreds of people, but like huge name comic book creators were replying like, if you do this, I am in. And so, you know, and then Zoop, who's hosting the campaign, and they're a crowdfunding platform that it's like Kickstarter, but just for comic books. And so, you know, they reached out and they're like, hey, saw your tweet, like if this actually happens. So, you know, it was like within a day, it went from, oh, I posted a goof on Twitter to, oh, I guess I'm making an anthology now.
It just got real.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's like, it's super fun. I mean, I'm getting to work with all these people who I really adore, you know, people that I know well, that I love and respect, and people who just are creators that I've really admired for a long time and am now getting to know better. And, but it's a ton of work. So there are moments where I'm like, wait, why again did I want to do this? But, you know, then I see like the stories and the art that come in, and it's like, it's wild.
This is why I did this. That is phenomenal. And I mean, we've had Ron is one of the contributors. We've had Ron on the show. Did you guys ever like work together? I know you both were involved with Green Lantern, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Ron Marz. You know, we haven't. We know each other really well, and he's a former journalist, and so he and I met at a convention years back, and it was just so like,
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he, you know, he's one of those people that like I grew up reading, love his work, greatly admire him, and then, you know, I got to meet him, and he's just like immediately like we're just pals, and yeah, so yeah, it's super great guy, amazing to have. So he's doing a story with Tom Rainey on art.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, I mean, Stardust, it's a super weird, you know, hero. How weird can we expect this anthology to get?
It gets real weird. Yeah. I mean, you know, what I love about it is, so, you know, it's like this all-star list of creators. A lot of them are mainstream creators. And, you know, I kind of like at the outset, I looked at it and I was like, there are two paths. I can either like give people this really like, hey, like this is the vision, this is the like overarching, you know, thing, like stay in this lane, right? And the alternative is to push everyone to be as weird as possible, right? To like, hey, go, like I'll give you feedback on whatever you could come up with. And so I just decided like the original comics, the original Stardust comics they're just like irrational. Like Stardust powers change every single issue. Like stuff just doesn't really make sense. So it was like, you can't even take some kind of logic away from that to apply to anything. So I just really push people like, do the comic that you always wish you could do, and you know, Marvel or DC would never let you do, and just go as experimental and as weird as possible. And man, people are delivering. There's a story about a diner that's actually a purgatory for villains.
That's so cool.
That's just bizarre. There's gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, one of the like little bits that's my favorite is there's Stardust interrupts a bank robbery, and these guys are trying to get into the safety deposit boxes, and Stardust like uses a ray that folds a guy up into an envelope and then, like sticks him in one of the deposit boxes. Like, there you go.
I love it.
Now you're in the box.
Your spine's not going to work after this, but you're in there.
Right. I did a story with Robert Wilson, the fourth, on art, and it's about Stardust finds a criminal who he's really in love, but his girlfriend has said, I won't marry a criminal, so like you either have to give up crime or give up me. And the criminal is just like, he's like, I can't decide, like I'm so torn. And Stardust is like I will help you in this matter, and shoots him with a scalpel ray that cuts his brain and his heart out of his body. And then the heart and the brain have like cartoon arms and legs and faces, and they just start to fight each other.
That's yes, I think that's on Zoop, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love it. It's like that 1930s animation too. It felt like.
Yeah, exactly. So there's actually a like meta story that weaves all of it together.
Okay.
And I'm doing that one with Pete Woods, and so that one is about this giant like alien that comes to Earth and sucks up all of our stories from our brains,
mm-hmm.
and then is judging them, like is viewing our stories, like viewing humanity's stories, and then is going to judge us on like, are we rational and smart enough to be allowed to live? And so this alien is called the Editor.
I love it.
And so he's actually like he's viewing the stories which are the stories of the book.
Mm-hmm. That's like what, like that feels like a fifth wall break right there almost.
Every wall. We're going straight through, so cool. Like Kool-Aid Man.
So this there is a sense of continuity almost a little bit with this, or is okay?
Yeah, so the individual stories, like some kind of touch each other in different ways, but I mean, people really did, like, people are going deep on the Stardust lore, like getting into some of the
awesome.
The old characters and concepts, and and even just stuff like Stardust was so dead set on fighting racketeers, like that was his big mission. So there's a lot of that in it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the kind of book where it's like, if you've read the Stardust comics and you come to it, you're gonna be like, oh my god, they dropped in the brain men from Marz, like that sort of thing. But you could also come into it and have never seen any of the Stardust comics, and it's just going to be like the biggest, weirdest kind of superhero romp that you're going to come across.
That's so cool. Before we dive into the campaign, I do want to make another important notice here. It's featuring the first ever comic story by the son of the creator, or the grandson, excuse me, which is insane. I mean, what an honor to have that story like in this anthology. Like this interview feels like a full circle of full circles almost.
yeah absolutely. So Stardust is public domain, which means like anyone can do whatever they want with it, right? But the way that I am and just the way that I feel, it's and I as a creator, it's like eventually my stuff is going to be in the public domain. But I just felt like I wanted to reach out to Fletcher Hanks's family, if I could find any, and say, like, before I took one step on this project, hey, how do you feel about this? Like, thumbs up, thumbs down, is there something financially we can do to help you guys out? So the cartoonist Paul Karasik, he edited those Fantagraphics anthologies of the original Stardust stories. So he had been in touch with the family, and he graciously put me in touch with Ian Hanks, who's Fletcher's grandson. And Ian was just so excited about it, so supportive of it. And then he's a fine artist, and he was like, well, do you think that maybe I could do a story for it too? And I was just like, please,
yes.
Like,
I was going to ask if you wanted to.
Yeah, like I would love that. So yeah, he has never done comic books before, and he did this great homage to the original Stardust and kind of did it in the style of the original Stardust. And then it also gets into, the legacy of Fletcher Hanks. It's both this amazing creative output, but it's also, there's a lot of really troubling personal stuff. Like, he was an alcoholic, he was an abusive parent, and he actually died. He froze to death, drunk, alone on a park bench. And so it's this really tragic story, and Ian delves into all of that in a story that's, I think, very touching, very tragic, and just, you know, really, it's like the exact right way to kind of get out this legacy that's both, you know, amazing and really, really sad all at the same time.
I love that. I love that so much. I think right now would be the perfect segue. Let's go ahead and get weird and check out this anthology for Stardust. So give us a few seconds, guys. We're going to head right over to the Zoop campaign right here. And if you are watching, be sure to check this out with us. We're going to be dropping this link in chat. As always, guys, if you will back, we would love to see that. But simply putting this wherever you can, word of mouth is 100% free. So put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. You have nothing to lose. And this is 140 plus pages of great anthology featuring Stardust. So we're looking at Stardust the Super Wizard hardcover anthology, currently at $17,731 of a $10,000 goal, 277 backers and 24 days left to go. Holy crap. I mean, you had an outpour of people wanting to be on the project, but you have, it looks like an outpour of people wanting to get the project as well. I mean, congratulations. It just looks like you're killing it, man.
Yeah, thank you. No, we're super excited. It's a great response. I mean, just, I think it took, you know, it was like, I don't know, 12 hours to break the goal. We really like charged out fast, and you know, and we've got that beautiful Mike Allred cover. We've got a ton of amazing creators, and yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, I also, you know, it was like we had this initial like rush of success, and now I'm like, hey, like there's 24 days left. Like let's see how much damage we can do, right?
Yeah, let's go. So right here are some of the rewards. You can get a PDF of this for just 25 bucks, the hardcover at 40, an outstanding bundle here at 50. So you get the hardcover plus a PDF of the original Stardust comics. So is that going to be the whole collection of them?
It'll be, I don't know if we'll be able to get all of the comics, but it'll be a lot of the original,
that's awesome.
A pretty deep cut of the originals.
At 60 bucks, you get the hardcover signed by Mike Allred. At 80, you get the hardcover remarked by Pete Woods, and then 80 remarked by Jesse Lonergan. Thank you for that. And then 80 for Tom Rainey as well. At 74, you have the hardcover plus 3 art print bundle, and then 60 the retail bundle as well. Awesome tiers on this. Some awesome add-ons as well. We have some original art at 300 bucks. Pete Woods will draw you into the background for just 250. So awesome price on all of these, and then get that original cover art for just 3,500. I am loving this campaign. Of course, all the unavailable right here. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these interiors, though. I just love how each one is a little bit different of a style, it almost feels like.
Yeah, we've got a good range of art styles. You know, you've got very traditional, like classic superhero styles. You've got some, I mean, we've got like, there's a guy that I'm psyched to have in there that I think a lot of people don't know about, but you've got Joshua Cotter, who's a great kind of indie underground cartoonist. Of course, there you've got you know, Mike Allred, a story written by Joe Keating. Yeah, it's just it's really, I think it's got something for everyone, but then I also think like there's enough to pull the whole book together.
And right here is that heart and the brain fighting. And I love how they even have like the little mustaches and everything. And then you just start us in the background like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of those, like, it's the best part of writing comic books, right? Like I write the scene and send it off, and Robert then emails me pages, and I looked at it, I was like, you drew little mustaches on them. Like, I can't believe it.
That is awesome. And then this was a really gorgeous page too. I just love this, like how all these, like, it's almost like, are these individual panels that are leading one another, or just the page split up into multiple squares?
Yeah, so that's Jesse Lonergan, and he, again, like, he's drawing Arca, which is the graphic novel that I've got out this summer, and he is I would say, the most design-centric artist that I think exists in comics right now. Like, he's so thoughtful. He creates these really elaborate grids, and you can, you know, if you really look closer, you can see the little squares at the top of the page, excuse me, actually spell out Stardust.
Oh my God. Holy crap. That is next level, dude.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, dude, that is so cool. I just love just like how weird this book is. Like you were saying it before backstage that was the big emphasis, is making this as weird as possible, and it was like letting people just go off the rails. Just like, this is remarkable. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I think it's just an incredibly, incredibly special book. And yeah, I don't know. Everyone is bringing it. I mean, just absolutely bringing it.
And right here is a look at these the 3 art prints that were in the rewards. All gorgeous prints right there too. And then here are the contributors too. So just knocking out the park on every every front right here, man. This is awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great list. I probably won't ever do one of these again. Just because it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of time that I'm not spending writing, but also it's like this one is so special that I kind of can't imagine ever doing one that could top this one.
So for anyone who might be on the fence about backing, after going through that campaign, checking out all those rewards and the awesome interiors, what would you like to say to them to kind of help push them over that fence?
I just think that this is a book that it's a love letter to Golden Age comics, and it's also something that's really going to stand on its own. It's I think a work of art that you can just look at and appreciate. Like, it's the kind of thing you can have out on your coffee table and people flip through, and you can just flip to any individual story and admire it. But it also, I think, is going to read through really well. Like, one of the things that was very important to me, a lot of anthologies are like a whole bunch, like an entire book of one-page stories. And not that there's anything against that, but I really think that, for me, I like to read a deeper story. And so all of our stories are, I think the shortest ones are about 3 pages, but most of the stories are anywhere from like 5 to 10 pages. So it's a shorter, fewer stories. All of them are longer. All of them are kind of meaty, and it's very intentionally put together. It isn't just a whole bunch of stuff. It is one book that you can really read all the way through and get a lot out of, I think.
I love that. Now, for after Stardust, I mean, you made a mention you have a book coming out in July with IDW. Is that the only thing, coming out for you in 2023? Is there any other titles that we can expect from you?
It's a busy year, actually. So yeah, Arca is out, I think, July 11th. And that's a sci-fi story. It's kind of what happens after. It's like the world has basically ended and the richest people on Earth had a plan of how to survive. And that involves using children and teenagers essentially as slaves. And with this bargain of like, this is the promise to you of, we're going to go to this new planet and you're going to get all these things. And it's the story of one of these teenagers, this girl, who just starts to put together like, this story doesn't totally make sense. So I'm super proud of that book. And then I think it's going to get announced this week or maybe next week. I'm doing a series at Dark Horse that's co-written with Jay Baruchel, the actor and director and writer. And it's got Alessandro Michelli on art. And it's this, it's kind of like if the movie True Romance was about kids escaping from a murder cult.
Ooh, I like that.
It's really cool. Super excited.
Is Jay on this anthology too?
Yeah, Jay's gonna do a short for the anthology.
So when I was going through that, I was like, I've seen this guy before, and I didn't want to just assume. I'm like, maybe you just. But when you mentioned there was an actor named Jay, I was like, it clicked. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. So very randomly, Jay and I are good buds. I actually I was just up in Toronto. He does this TV show called We're All Gonna Die. That's about like existential threats to humanity. And he just he rang me up. It was like, hey, would you want to be on one of the episodes? I was like, yeah, I don't know what expertise I have about, mass extinction of humans, but I'll be on TV. So I think that episode is out this fall.
Dude, oh man, that is so cool. And just casually yeah, we're friends, no big deal.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big to me, people are just people, like
Mm-hmm.
whoever you are. So yeah, when Jay and I met, it was just like we think alike creatively. Like he's really grounded, which that kind of needs to be the case for me to to really connect with someone. Yeah, we just hit it off, and yeah, we're working on a few things together. And then I'm trying to think. I've got an ongoing series from IDW that I think is coming out in January. That I just like. I'm really anxious to get that one announced because I think it's the best thing I've ever done.
Ooh.
I'm super excited about it, and they are too. Like they were just like, yeah, like how many issues do you want to write? Like
That's
as long of a
that's a
runway.
good sign, right? Like,
Yeah. And then the last thing for this year, my first novel comes out November 1st.
congratulations on that too. Is it is it a challenge doing a novel compared to a comic?
They're very different. The thing I'll say is like I had never written prose before.
Mm-hmm.
I have no I took like one undergrad creative writing class. And granted, like I've written a lot. I think I've probably got like several million words in print through all my journalism. But yeah, I just I wrote it and had no idea if it was any good or not, and sent it to an agent. She was like, "It's good. We'll get it published." And then I just had to go and send it out to other authors to try to get blurbs for it, and it was terrifying. I'm like, hey, if you read it and hate it, just don't bother. I understand it, but everyone read it and really liked it, so I don't know. I guess that's the thing that I do now also.
I love that too. Every time you're like, I don't know if it's gonna be good, it ends up being like awesome, phenomenal, landing you gigs at DC, So Van, I know this is your first time on the show. We always end the show strong by asking for a little bit of advice and then what you're consuming outside of creating. So for anyone looking to just get started with writing, just any sort of writing, what would be the biggest piece of advice you could offer them to kind of just help them get started, with that process?
The kind of foundational bit of advice that I always give is, and there's a ton of advice, and kind of the ground floor is if you want to be a writer or a storyteller, just just do it. Just keep going, just churn as much stuff as you possibly can. But the thing that I really try to hit on with people is, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but is to think about writing and storytelling as different disciplines. And a lot of times I think people just get in and it's all one thing, but the craft of writing is a very particular craft. And it's really, whether it's structuring a comic book script or prose or a movie script or whatever, the use of language, that is all a very specific thing. And storytelling is also a very, specific thing. And so you use writing to tell stories, but you really need to, think through the storytelling aspect first. And you kind of continue to stress test the story as you go. But really work on your craft as a storyteller. And that's even I always think about I come on a podcast like this. It's you ask me a question, I try to give you answers as a story. I'm kind of always telling stories, and that's just practice for me of working on that craft, getting better and better. So yeah, in your day-to-day life, try to tell stories, try to, the things that you observe, can I put it together in this way? And Tess is tell a story. And if people are just it's okay, that one didn't work. Maybe try it a different way.
I think being open to constructive criticism is a big point of it. Being able to kind of, I wouldn't say have thick skin, but being able to take a little bit of hey, this could take improvement, and knowing what's constructive and what's people just being, buttheads, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get feedback.
Yeah.
And you have to assume that you're not good.
Yeah.
Because it's like any skill, just when you start out, everyone's terrible at it. And man, you just have to it's if I made a list of all the people who told me oh, you want to write for magazines, you'll never do that. Oh, you want to write books, you'll never do that. You want to make comics, you'll never do that. Most everyone in my life told me is you will never do that. That is a stupid dream. It's impossible. And what I said to them was like, you know what? It is a stupid dream. And I'm just going to like keep going for, I don't know why. I feel like I have to.
Did you send them like an issue of the Flash or Green Lantern or Superman? You're like, hey, by the way, here, free issue on the house. Go ahead, check it out if you want.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I'm not one of those people that's like that uses spite or like resentment as a motivator. I guess I'll say, like, not that there's anything wrong with that. For me, it's more like, you know, I want to push myself to be great and to do great things, to like, you know, for those handful of people that I like, I really want to see, like, does this hit with them? Like the people that I'm just like, that's someone that I deeply respect. Like, can I write something that hits a level that they're like, yeah, this is good. But yeah, I don't think I've done any of that. Like, hey, FYI,
I did make it on a magazine.
Yeah, I might have like, I'm trying to think. You know, there was a guidance counselor in high school, and I got end of high school, I got accepted to the honors program at University of Nebraska. And this guy was like, you shouldn't accept that. You're not smart enough. You're not a good enough student to,
oh my God,
to be an honors student in college. And I think after I graduated with honors and distinction, and I think I might have sent him a note, just like, you know, like you pushed me, and I didn't listen to you, and I did it.
Do you think he was just being just not a good guidance counselor? Or do you think he was like reverse psychology?
I think he was not a good guidance counselor.
Yeah. That's not like.
I think there were multiple evidence points.
Because mine was actually a little bit different. My guidance counselor was always like, Cody, I know you could do better. Like, kick it up into gear. Come on. And I'm like, oh, wow. So, I mean, outside of all of this, outside of creating, what are you consuming? What books are you reading? What TV shows are you watching? Movies? If you play video games, you know, what are you gaming on?
Let's see. So I'm reading right now. I just started The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's also written for Captain America. And just at the outset, but it's one of those books where the writing is so good. It's like, man, should I quit? Like, maybe I should quit. And let's see. I'm trying to think. Well, I just saw. So I've been getting the Claremont X-Men omnibuses. So I just saw like the new one. I think it's volume 5 is shipping. So I'll be deep in that. Let's see. I haven't really been watching much. We're in the middle of renovating our house, so we just like had to move out of our house, and life has been
that's nuts. Chaotic. Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't watched much, but I did. So like I went 20 years without touching video games because I was just like, I need to have time to write. I need to focus on it. Anyway, we got the kids a Switch, and then everyone was telling me, it was like, you got to play Breath of the Wild. You got to play Breath of the Wild. So I finally did, like last year, I think. And then for my birthday was last month, and my wife got me Tears of the Kingdom. So I've just started it. I'm still just like trash at it. So.
You know, I don't understand how people are building the robots. I have a hard enough time putting a stick to a board in it and like making it not fall off the cliff. I can't tell you how many times I spent hours building something, it just falls off a cliff. Like,
yeah, no, it's so complicated, and I just like I haven't had the time to really, you know, master it yet, and it's so frustrating to play a video game and just be like just terrible at it. Like, I don't know, I feel like I should start a Twitch channel of like, it's like your terrible dad plays video games is basically.
I mean, there's a market for it. I've been doing Twitch streaming for about 6 years, so that's actually what kind of started keeping it geekly. You know, I just liked playing video games and talking about comics, and one thing led to another. Then I started interviewing comic creators, and we're here today. So with that being said, guys, it is time for us to wrap up. Right here is the link. Be sure to back this today over on Zoop, and if you can't back it, put it on Facebook and Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free, and it costs nothing to do. This is an awesome anthology, and you don't want to miss it. That being said, I hope you have a lovely, lovely Monday, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.